Hello, it's CisVolk. Time to enjoy card making with me. This is already the third video where I show you a nice technique to use these Carla Creaties text stencils. When you buy the stencils, they are connected, but when you use them and have cut them apart, they slide over each other in the bag and you can't read the text anymore. That is why I wrote the text on the back of the bag with a permanent marker. I hope this is a tip for you to store them and find them again easily. Let me know in the comments if you have a better solution. I will be thrilled to know. For today's card I will be doing the same technique as I did for this special card. This is an edge-to-edge shaker card. This card is made with the Dutch Hooray text stencil in combination with the Ols clear stamps. Here is one of the stamp sets I used, a very popular one. On this card I used the Craft Emotions glitter snow paste, and this is what the jar looks like. It is white snow paste with a glitter in it. For today's card I will use the true snow paste, practically the same but without the glitter. Let me show you the two pastes on white paper, so you can see the difference. I start with the glitter snow. It is very smooth and white. On the video you can see almost no glitter, but when it dries you can see that better. And in real life it is beautifully glittery. And this is the true snow. It's a bit thinner to apply. Just use a spatula to apply it and clean that spatula with just water afterwards. And this is just a quick example. You can spread it out evenly or use variation in the thickness to create texture. It dries very quickly. Better not dry it with a heat tool. It is possible, but then you are likely to get bubbles and puffy spots. It is a pity that you cannot see the glitter. You will have to believe me on that. And here you see it when it's dry. The plain one looks more chalky. Let's start making the edge-to-edge shaker card. For that you need a plastic storage bag for cards, a clear cellophane bag. If you don't have any, you can also use the packaging that comes with craft supplies. So for making one card, I'm sure you can find something similar in your craft room. Of course, I will be using these fun text stencils again. And to be able to use them, we need to spray the back of them with condensed stencil spray. Shake it well before usage, keep a distance of 20 cm and wait about 2 minutes for it to dry. I spray in a paper bag. It does not take up much space and I can close it quickly to keep the fumes inside the bag, waiting for them to fall on the stencils. To have a reference to see where to place the stencils, I will put a base card underneath this clear cello bag. So this is just temporary to get a good look at the size of the card and position of the stencils. Now I just stick the stencils on the place where I want the text to be. Stick them so that you leave enough space to later place the images next to, on top of, or between the text. My image will be next to the word let's. With a bone folder we press firmly on the stencil to have it stick very well, and that is important because we don't want to have any paste running under the stencil. And with tiny pieces of the stencil, like the apostrophe in the let's, it can be tricky when it's not pressed down well enough. Now my template card can go. And now we can apply the paste. Today I choose to use the true snow. Scoop a bit on the spatula and smear it on the cello bag and the stencils. It is slippery and smudgy, so be careful and do not press hard. If you press too hard, you will scrape all paste back off again. I want to apply paste on my whole shaker panel. But if you prefer, you can also only apply paste around the text, or just leave the corners open. Depending on whether you want structure or not, now you have enough time to add structure. Getting an even smooth coat is very difficult to do with such a small spatula. And working with paste is not quite my forte, so this is a good practice. A bigger spatula is easiest to use for larger areas. Keep in mind not to press at all and make a diagonal movement. Would you go vertical, your spatula will get stuck behind the stencil and make texture impressions that you might not want. Holding this big spatula fairly flat, the result will be best. Immediately clean your work surface and tools, only water will be enough. The snow paste on the cello bag is still wet. Now it's time to remove the stencils from the bag. The easiest and best way to do it is to bend that bag so that the text stencil is released from the cello bag. When you bend that bag, you do not have to touch the paste around the stencil. Carefully remove that stencil. Do not touch parts where there is paste. And this way you get a perfectly sharp text. You see how nice it is. When I bend it with my fingers on the back, it is easiest to release the stencil. And the last one. This we will let dry for an hour or so. In the meantime, we will be doing other stuff. First, let's clean the stencils under the tap with some water. Now I will be making the background of the card. For that I will use watercolor card. It is the 200 grams smooth white aquarelle paper from Craft Emotions, one of my favorite papers. I am already using the last sheet. I use this paper a lot. I use it for backgrounds as well as for coloring stamps with distress inks. This paper is A4 sized, so when we cut it in half 2 times, we get a piece of paper that is 14.8 by 10.5 centimeters. I only need one piece. And to color this background, I will be shifting the camera to the right side of my working space. Here I have the Craft Emotions adhesive craft sheet. It is a kind of silicone sheet that I stuck on my desk. By the way, it is easy to remove and reattach again and again. You could also use this white sheet that comes with a Tim Holtz glass mat, or you can buy it separately. It is more or less the same product. You can stick it to the table or to your glass mat. I will be using 3 different colors of distress oxide. These inks I will be smudging onto my craft sheet. Here I have a beautiful combination of colors. There is Candied Apple, Vintage Photo and Tea Dye. Then I spray water on top of the ink. My bottle sprays large drops now. That is not what I need, but it's not a big deal. You can see that drops are forming on the craft sheet. Now I dip the piece of watercolor paper into the ink and I'm going to dry it with the heat tool. Next we repeat this again and again. Dip the paper in the ink and dry it with the heat tool. And new ink to the craft sheet. Spray water on top and dip in the paper. Would I do this on my glass mat, I would get a different pattern, a different effect. On the glass mat there will be no drops that obvious like on the craft sheet. It would look more like a smooth blend. You can also use a plastic sheet that you ink up, spray wet and smudge onto the paper. This won't give you the beautiful drops of ink that I now get with the craft sheet, but you can see where you put the ink. For the card technique I now show you, it is not necessary to make such a complicated background. You could also just ink blend or use a plain piece of colored paper. I make this because I like doing it, and that is one of the main things in crafting, isn't it? Do what you like doing. I kept dipping and adding more and more layers. For the last layer I will spray some Nouveau mica mist on top. Now my bottle is clogged and won't spray, therefore I poured some liquid over into another bottle and used that. After spraying, I will pour the liquid back and rinse the small one. These bigger drops are not meant to be. It should only be mist, not droplets. But okay, no worries, most of it we won't see after all. This is the final background. This background needs to be cut a little smaller. If we were to skip this, the card would not fit into the envelope. It is about 3 mm that I cut off, so now it is slightly smaller than the normal A6 size. Meanwhile, the snow paste is dry. This background we now will put inside that cello bag. Of course, with the pretty side facing to the text that is uncovered by the snow. We now get a beautiful see-through. Place the background exactly so that the text is in a nice place. In doing so, it is also quite nice when there is an empty corner left. so no worries if you did not spread the paste on the whole cello bag. Now we fold the bottom excess side over to the back, and you can stick that with just regular adhesive tape. I want to add this funny cat to the card, and to make sure if I don't let its tail dangle over the edge, I first measure if there's enough room for it. Now I still can shift it a bit to the left if necessary. The left and right excess sides I now fold and stick with tape. The corners I fold. You can skip that, but if you don't fold the corners, you might see some plastic sticking out from under the edge. Just check if you see any of it on the front, and if so, you can still easily fold this edge inward. Don't tape the plastic too tightly around the paper. There should be a little space left so it doesn't warp. Fortunately, the tape and plastic are very forgiving. You can easily pull it off and stick it again. Now we have folded the back at the sides and at the bottom, but is still open at the top. Whatever we put inside will be visible through the letters. To fill the shaker, I search for some shades of sequins that match the colors of the background and also the colors of the cat. If you take colors that are next to each other in the color wheel, you can be sure that the result will be beautiful. The back is way too long. We just cut this off. And now we can close the bag. Again, I fold the corners inward before taping it down. I like to stick the shaker to a folded card and use red tacky tape for that, so I will be sure it will stick well enough. Because we cut a narrow strip from the colored panel, this shaker fits exactly. The cello bag also needs some space to fit around the edges of the card after all. In one of my short videos and in my reels on Instagram, you can find a quick video of how I colored the cat that I will use on this card. I colored it with the Rand Lightfast pencils. A link for it is below in the description of this video. The colored figures I stick on the card with foam squares. They should stick well enough to the snow paste. But to make sure they don't come loose, I smear some extra glue on top. I also placed 3 balls of yarn equally divided on the card, 1 ball for each word. It is also useful to stick one on top of a blooper, if you have one. From a previous project I still have this text strip left over. The text was stamped on white linen paper with black VersaFine ink and then heat embossed with transparent embossing powder. I stick this text strip to the card with foam blocks as well. And now the envelope and the quick tip for stretching your stamps. Always put a thick piece of paper inside the envelope to protect the back. With a fine liner you can add lines to enlarge the thread that is sticking out of the ball of yarn. If you color some parts a little thicker and add a light color to other parts and also a dark color where shading is needed, you will have a quick and beautiful coloring without much effort. This is such a fun new way to use paste and make a fun shaker card, don't you think? Next week there will be another video about working with text stencils and snow paste. You will be surprised. And there will also be a video in where I use such a background as I use for this card in combination with the text stencils in another different way. Thank you for watching. Check the descriptions and leave a comment please. And have you subscribed to my channel yet? I will see you next time. Bye bye!